Okay, well, I'm super glad you ladies could pop on with me. I wanted to go over a couple of, I feel like, really important things after our huge June moving into July, and some things that have just been laid on my heart about. For one, I want to share with you guys where I'm at in my family, etc., so that you know what's going on. Two, talk about what to do at the beginning of the month to make sure we have a good month the rest of the month. And then three, what did I just say? I just told you guys what it was going to be. How to structure
Time management.
time management. Okay. So let's start with the time management piece because I feel like it's so huge. When I'm on top of time management, my life is so much easier just overall. So I was on a Ruby call earlier this week, and that was the best piece of advice I got out of all the advice that was shared was take your calendar at the beginning of your month and just sit down and you put in your non-negotiables first. It's kind of like we talk about how it's hard sometimes for moms to feel like we need to put ourselves first and then we end up running so dry we can't even be there for everybody. Same kind of thing can happen in your business. If you don't put in your non-negotiables of when are you going to work out, when are you going to sleep, when are you going to have a date night with your husband, if you don't put those in your calendar, you will run yourself ragged for your team and never get anything done yourself. You will be completely run dry again. So it's the same kind of concept. So he said, first thing you do, get out your calendar and put in your non-negotiables. Those don't budge. You can't do anything about it. Then put in some things that you really love because you need to fill your tank. So then you need to put in the things that you love. Then you look at it after all that. Oh, and your appointments, of course. Then you got to put in your appointments. Then you got to look at that and say, okay, so what's left? Then you schedule your work hours. And then the key here is keep that promise to yourself. You've just laid it out and you'll be like, wow, I actually do have time to work here and here and here and here. And then you don't work when you're not on the clock. Don't work when you're not on the clock. And that way you can be fully present with your family when you're there. That way you don't have all these things just in the back of your head like, oh my gosh, I got to remember to do this. I got to remember to do that. No, you know when you're working and you write yourself a to-do list of these are the things I need to accomplish next time I'm working. And then just become better and better, disciplining yourself at good, better, and best. Kind of like we learned from Brooke. There's good things to do. Posting on social media, that's a good thing to do. Connecting with this, specific person who you've been keeping the conversation with going for like a year and they still haven't tried Plexus, those are all good things to do. But better things would be maybe in this category, and then best things, and just being better at looking at my to-do list and going, what's the best right here that I need to knock out right now in this workspace, right? So that was one of the best pieces of advice I got off of that whole thing. I'm like, that would clear up so much mental space. It would clear up so much angst in my home. So I just wanted to make sure I pass that on to you, as I feel like that's probably one of the most important things that we can do. And then the next thing is basically just going off of Brooke's thing where she says this is how she schedules her month, right? I loved how she said at the beginning of the month, the first of the month, refresh your contacts list of 20 to 30 people that you are developing a relationship with, and take time to focus on who and what you're going to do, who and what you are doing, and you will have greater direction all month. So I felt like this list is why I had such a big June. Because I had been honing in on and developing legit relationships with, not talking about Plexus, to my MOPS moms. So they were all on my list of like, these are really cool people. I like them. We're all in the same phase of life. We're just developing relationships together. And then so when I had my post, most of those people who jumped on it were MOPS moms because we already have a relationship. They already trust me, and so it was the right time for those of them. And not everybody who commented ended up doing it, right? But there was enough of that. So I thought that was really a good reminder. And then for those of us who are beginning to work Instagram, I love, oh my, that really, I've heard a lot of training on Instagram, and the ones that I like the best, that are the most legitimate, heartfelt, are the ones where you don't do these big giveaways and like have people follow 5 or 6 other people like to get it, those things. That might grow your followers, but it doesn't actually necessarily translate into people trying Plexus because you haven't developed any relationship with them. And so I love the training on Instagram that says, you search some hashtags, you find some people you really like, and you follow them. You interact on their stuff. You get interested in their life. And I think Brooke says she puts these people on a list and she interacts with them intentionally for like a week, maybe 2. And if there's no follow back, if they're not responding to her messages, following her back on Instagram, engaging in a relationship, then she takes them off her list. Not because they're not maybe great people, but they're not looking for a relationship with her right now, right? And so she's not going to waste too much more time on that. And I appreciated that because there were some people on my list that I was like, wow, they're really cool, but they're really not reciprocating. They had no interest in a relationship with me. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. Go find some people who are looking for new relationships. Why are you so mad? Okay, and then what was the other thing? Oh, so this fits into what we had talked about first, actually. The first of the month, map out your IPA time, schedule your business hours, and, decide what you want to accomplish. So the reason goals are important is because it helps you determine what you will need to do every day to reach your goal, right? So it is an important thing, but again, a goal is that there are certain things you just can't control. You can't control outcomes. All you can control is what you do every day, right? So not getting discouraged if the outcome doesn't end up being exactly what you wanted. If you did the things, you showed up and you put everything in, then that is to be celebrated. You were faithful to the promises you made to yourself. You were faithful to what you were supposed to be faithful to. And the rewards do come because the law of sowing and reaping is just, it's a universal law. It can't be denied. Eventually, if you continue to sow and tend your field, you will have a harvest. It's just a matter of time. And then the other thing she said was the first week of the month, see the plan to develop potential in the month. So at the beginning of the month, go to your points and rank and sort your team by points, highest to lowest. Look at where your team is. Okay, so this is probably people with a bigger team because she's like, look for people who 5 to 10 points, they've never gone silver. But actually, that's almost everybody in your back office, right? They've either added 1 or added none, so they have potential to go silver. And then reach out to them basically. So if they're taprooting, they're below, if they're not your level 1, then using the message we had talked about, Heidi, where you're reaching out and saying, this is who I am here, I'd love to answer questions, hear about your goals, and help you have success. Is that okay? You should see this face. I mean, it's so sad. What's making you sad, my love? But okay, so since I may have to stop the recording just because I don't want you all to sit here and listen to somebody whine. Um, we're miserable. Let me pause. I can do that. Okay, yes, that was a really good question. Could you ask it again?
Sure. So I've come across probably a handful of people where I'm asking all the questions. They are very interested. They tell me what their issues are. You know in your mind that Plexus will help them. You get them all ready, like, yes, this is the welcome pack for you. And then they see the price and they're like, oh, I can't do that. Okay, well, we'll do the 99 pack. What do you think? Oh, I just don't feel like I'm financially ready. I'll get in touch with you when I'm ready, or financially ready, kind of thing. And so I just feel like I struggle with, they're going to help. And if you just add 3 people, like, I don't want to be pushy salesy, but like, there's a way. And how do you basically convince people that this is the right move and let me help you, kind of thing? And I just don't know, without just only praying that they show back up or say, okay, I'm ready now,
Right.
I don't know. It tugs on my heart.
Such good questions, because we want what's best for them, but what we know will help them, they're not sure will help them. So there's doubt and there's uncertainty there. But okay, so a couple of things you said that were very interesting. Sounds like you've done a pretty good job of, like, they'll tell you their problems, right?
Yep, totally.
Great. And then you move right along into um, a 199 recommendation, because that's really where they're going to get the best help. They're going to see the most results, like absolutely is what's best for them. And if
Mm-hmm.
they say they can't do that, then the 99. So all of that was perfect. What I've learned about people is that it seems, if we don't, their reason not to is never the first one they give you. Like, price is just an easy out. It's an easy out.
Mm-hmm.
And because nobody really knows anybody else's finances, it's not really something you can dispute or argue, right?
Right.
And so it's just an easy out. Usually it's kind of like in the book, The Secret Code of Success. You can never fix a why to problem with a how to answer. So if you're trying to tell them how to fix their problem, if they have a why to problem, they don't believe they're worth it. They don't believe spending money on themselves if their mom is okay. Like, whatever their why to issue is, your how to answers aren't going to help. So that was something I had learned in that book. It was like, oh my goodness. And now I'm rereading the How to Win Friends and Influence People book. And he just has example after example after example of people who, take his course and apply his methods, who have been talking to this specific company or this specific person or whatever about this deal or this sale or this whatever for years and gotten nowhere. Because even if my solution is the solution you need, you're getting nowhere. And there's several principles to apply. But one of my favorite ones was, once a person says no, it's so hard to get them to change their mind, because it's more than just a no. It's their pride is now on the line. They feel like they need to stick by their answer because they feel like, they made a decision of some sort. So one of the best practices we can get into when we're trying to introduce something that's going to be good and helpful for a person, but especially if this is new territory that they haven't had a chance to really wrap their brain around or anything, one of the best things you can do is, when you start a conversation, ask questions that they must say yes to. It's like warming them up to saying yes. So an example might be, Because based on what they've already told you about their issues. I'm trying to think of one that I did recently. Oh goodness, I should just read it to you, like instead of sitting here like blanking trying to come up with it. But I mean, you understand the idea. It's like asking them questions that don't even necessarily have to do with Plexus. It has to do with them and their story that they would want to say yes to before you reapproach the idea of considering it again. Getting them warmed up to saying yes instead of saying no was one. Another one was we often fall into the trap of we've gone through this process and they seem like they're ready to buy, and then they throw up an objection or something, and we go instantly into trying to help them solve this problem instead of addressing this objection for what it really is. So like we said, so often cost is actually just a facade. Because, and Brooke says this all the time, I've heard a lot of very successful diamonds say this, if you spend enough time putting gentle pressure on their pain points, price will not be a problem. They will be coming to you with, how do I get it? Because I'm not staying here anymore. And so there is a skill to that, because the goal is not to manipulate people. The goal is to love them enough to help them get out of their own predicament, because nobody else can save them, right? They have to save themselves in this scenario. If they have a why-to problem, no how-to is going to fix it. You can get people to buy Plexus and it will sit on their counter and they will not take it, right? So I would say there's a lot of good training on it, but this book has been phenomenal. I've just been listening to it as we walk and highlighting chunks of it and just going back and rereading it, and I'm just like, oh my goodness. It's basically just teaching us about human nature. It's basically teaching us about human nature, and the more we can dial our lenses into seeing people and not just hearing what they say, but so she's telling me the cost is the problem. Okay, so tell me more about that. What else is going on in your life right now? And if you've spent a little bit of time ahead of time when she's talking about all the things and being like, wow, that sounds like it really affects your everyday life. What does that interfere with? Like, she can't get a part-time job because her aches and pains are so bad, or, whatever the heck the things may be. Mm-hmm. So I guess those are just all different little things that I've learned over the past couple of years that have made a huge difference in, I don't get a cost objection very often. Even if people are surprised by the cost, they're usually not. Because I've spent the time building the value of what this is. And that took a lot of practice, because I think, oh my goodness, in the beginning, I got it all the time. And it's really not, you look at anything comparable, there's really nothing else out there like Plexus, but anything who claims to be like Plexus, like, Advocare has packages and Thrive has packages and all these other things, we are not even close to as expensive. And it works better and it deals with root issues. So it's like there's really nothing comparable out there. But did that help a little bit at all?
So what book are you reading?
How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. It's old and it's fabulous. It was one of the original, I think, self-help, like self-improvement books. Mm-hmm. It's incredible. The more I read, I'm like, oh my goodness, this applies to this relationship in my life. Like, we're talking about like personal relationships here too. I'm like, oh my goodness, we've been going back and forth over this issue with my husband, and I'm just like not even seeing what's really going on here. Because he'll talk about that. He goes, it's no longer the issue. This is what's involved in like just human nature. Now you've got the person's like pride involved. And I'm like, oh, this is not even really about the issue we're talking about anymore. We need to go around and like deal with what's going on. Go around.
Yeah.
That was super helpful. So on that note, one of the things, my other children are awake now, is so I work my business really hard, full time, all the time for about 3 years, and did a lot of good things, a lot of things right. But unfortunately, I hadn't learned early enough on the good, better, best things. So I'd spend a lot of my time doing good things that weren't best things. Oops, careful. So because of that, even though I spent the time to have been a diamond by now, I wasn't actually doing the right activities, which is fine. I've learned the error of my ways and I've changed my ways. But unfortunately, all of that time I can't get back. And so we've gotten to the point as a family now where our 2 little kids, let's be real, we've put new boundaries in place. My husband has requested that I actually do work part-time, like I say I'm going to. So I'm not supposed to work after he gets home at night on weekends. Unless, if I'm up nursing a baby and everybody else is napping, then, I can answer messages or something, but I can't put in the work that I was doing. So my time I'm getting better at really zoning in and focusing, which is part of why I wanted to encourage you guys with the idea of this time blocking, like out your week, and using Brooke's guideline for like how to structure your month, because it's true. She's very smart. There's a reason she's made it to where she's at. She's systemized everything. And once you do that, then when you are present with your family, you can be 100% present with your family because you don't have these looming things just, around your head. So I think it's beautiful, and I'm excited to see what happens as I learn to discipline myself and do these things right. But just know, it's not that I don't care or I've all of a sudden dropped off the face of the earth if I don't get back to you. It is simply, I am trying to respect my husband and the boundaries we have put in place. And for this season, I feel like it's appropriate. And yeah, we'll see how that goes. But it'll be good.
It's so open.
Well, that's not for you, honey. That's Mom's.
It's not open.
No, it doesn't.
Why?
Well, it's probably childproof. Okay, let me pause here.